Welcome back to Investing on Trading Live. As always, I am your host, Josh Lilquist. In the last segment, we talked about kind of what's going on in the markets with how the institutions run the market and how a lot of individuals try to beat the institutions. Well, we know that we can't beat the institutions, so we need a strategy as retail investors. We're called the retail investors, the public, and a strategy that's designed to follow those institutions and trade like them, not against them, and how to time the market based off supply and demand, which is potential buyers, which would be demand. Supply would be potential sellers, and then ride along their coattails so we don't have to move the market. We can trade like them. And we have investing classes that we do here locally at the Academy. We also have these classes. By the way, these are free all across the metro. We do these classes in Maple Grove, Edina, Wayzata, Woodbury, St. Cloud, Rochester. We're all across the metro here, helping people just basically go into their backyard to train them different techniques and strategies on what is in the market, what's available, and then how to make smart investing decisions. It all starts with this free investing class. Simply just text the word investing to the number 210-210. Right now, for 2 seats for that investing class, text investing to the number 210-210 for 2 seats. Also, we do appreciate our subscribers. I mention each and every single week that we're going to make this the #1 global financial podcast, and we appreciate all those subscribers and followers. We're getting a lot of traction really all across the country, multiple countries on the podcast as well. So make sure to listen to Investing and Trading Live if you missed part of the show on any podcast site, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. So, Al, in this next segment here, we still got a lot to discuss, obviously, with the institutions moving the markets and how to trade like them. But it all comes down to one thing, and it's price. Not being in the market just because, and that's kind of what we're trained as from a young age, to be in the market. You mentioned in the last segment, Wall Street or your broker or your advisors, they've trained you to be a great customer for them. Now think about that. You're a great customer for a institution that is profiting off just having your money in there with no regards to what it actually does for you. Now think about that for a second. You give all your money, your hard-earned money, to a stranger hoping that they do something for you, but they're not even getting paid on performance. They're getting paid off of assets under management, which is dollars in their possession, by the way, which is your dollars. So we're seeing a lot of people out that are coming to the Academy that, and here's the word that I hear a lot lately. There's actually 2 words, control and flexibility. They want to be able to control their destiny financially. They want to control their location, which would be flexibility. They want to control their time, which would be more flexibility. And I think that's what a lot of people are wanting to do, because that's what they're saying. We want more control of what is happening in our lives, especially financially. And most people don't really have that control because they have a 401k and they're told to just let it sit in there. Well, there's opportunities that come along with a 401k. But also there's opportunities to create your own wealth as well. But it takes extra income to do that. So we have multiple assets, Al. We have stocks. Everybody knows what those are. We have options. We have futures. And we have Forex. So it's multiple vehicles that are designed for us to utilize, right? But you're told to get into, well, really 1 or 2 things. Stocks, and then what's worse, mutual funds. What do you believe, and what do you feel that you've been having a lot of people that come to the Academy for, looking for help on the markets and really controlling their destiny? What are some of the things that you've seen really open a lot of people's eyes on the opportunities with these different vehicles?
Well, they're seeing the opportunities that other people are realizing, and they're not realizing them. But here's the interesting thing, kind of sad, is that they're using the same person, the same company, and the same strategies that got them to where they are now or didn't get them to where they wanted to be. Mm-hmm. But, it's a fear of taking control. You use that word control. How do you take control? How do you do that confidently? And in order to do that, you have to have the proper education. You have to know how to benefit from what's available. And think about this. Do you believe that there are people that are making money in the market? And if you say yes, which is the only right answer, then they must be doing something to make them successful. What is it that they're doing that maybe you aren't doing, or that the majority of the public isn't doing? that's what we do. We show you what they're doing. We show you how they do that. And the great thing for us is that the way we're talking about Wall Street, the big players, the way they have to trade just fits right into what we do.
Well, there's a quote that Peter Lynch said. Do you have that quote?
I don't know the exact quote, but basically what he said was that because of the advance in technology now and the sophistication of the trading platforms, you have an advantage over the Wall Street pros.
Yeah, the retail advantage.
Yeah, the retail trader has the advantages on their side, and that is true. What we talk about is finding where the institution is taking the first part of a trade. We know that companies like Goldman Sachs, people like Warren Buffett, they only can get part of an investment filled at one time, but they're tipping us off to where the first part happens so we can take advantage of the next part. There was an article here that I looked at about Warren Buffett. It just said that he sold off about 1% of his stake in Apple. In the last quarter of 2023, the company revealed in SEC filings this year. In other words, he sold the shares last year. He let the public know that he sold them this year. So the only way he's not going to get hurt when he sells something is only sell part of it at one time, a small amount that doesn't tip off the public and other institutions as to what.
Which 1% was probably several millions of dollars
for Warren Buffett, because that's one of his biggest holdings. He's not saying that Apple's not a good company. He just had such a high percentage of his holdings in Apple that he wanted to reduce that a bit.
But he probably had good gains with it too.
He had great gains, and what he wanted to do was raise some more cash for when he feels the market is providing some great values for him again, which he's not seeing right now. So there are things that you can do to learn how to control your assets. You have to be able to use something that gives you the consistency to be able to do that, something that you can rely on, and then you have the discipline to follow that strategy, which first has to be proven to you that it works. And what we do in our classes, we show you how our strategy works, how you can benefit by using it, and then we teach you how to use it the proper way.
Yeah, and really just to go a little further on how the markets are working, and you asked the question, do people actually make money in the markets? Well, the markets is really just two players in the market. There's a buyer and a seller. It doesn't matter who it is. But how the markets work is pretty simple. It's just a transfer of money in accounts from the people that don't know what they're doing to the people that do. And if you feel like you're the person that doesn't know what you're doing, well, it might be advantageous to understand understand more about it. And that's why we have these introductory classes to introduce you to these techniques, these concepts. So hopefully you can make a smarter investing decision moving forward. Simply to come into one of these investing classes, they're free. They're about 2 hours long. What's pretty cool, Al, is we've been having a lot of people, especially in the metro here, that have been coming to these classes lately that do really good financially, great financially, but they have other goals too. They don't just want to get by, say with their $100,000, $200,000 salary. They want to build something. So that's the cool thing, is we've been seeing really great people come into these classes that have been doing really, really well financially, but they still have bigger goals. And that's the great thing about that, is it takes different things to do to reach those goals. So to come into one of these classes, simply just text the word investing to the number 210, and that's for 2 seats for an investing class, one for you and one for a friend. Text investing to the number 210. Now, Al, with these other vehicles that are out there, right? We have stocks, what's worse, mutual funds. There's other vehicles that people have been getting into once they understand what they are. Now, just kind of explain a little bit what the difference would be, or maybe a compare and contrast between like stocks and options, or stocks and futures, or stocks and Forex, because it's kind of like having a bicycle or an SUV, or a bicycle or an airplane. They're both vehicles, essentially, that will get you somewhere. Right. But how do you want to get there? Now, you just kind of do a compare and contrast. Why don't you let's start with futures and stocks.
Okay, well, stocks are actually part of the futures market, but when you're looking at individual stocks, you're basically providing ownership of part of a company to you. You're buying little shares in the company, and you're hoping that the company does well, so the shares increase in value. Unfortunately, for a lot of the companies that are really that have really provided good returns over the last few years. The price of those individual assets is very high. You can look at the price of some stocks over $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. A lot of them are in the high triple-digit areas, $400, $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 a share. That means that a lot of people can't participate in those assets. The great thing about some of these other assets, like futures, for example, you can have a much smaller account but control something that is a multiple of that. If you want to invest in the stock markets, all of our major markets here and also foreign markets, you can do that within the futures market. And basically what you're saying is that I believe, let's say, the S&P 500 is going to be worth more in the future or less in the future. The great thing about futures is that there are a number of different things that give you the ability to have really good diversification. You can trade in the commodities market. You can trade, sugar, soybeans, lumber, lean hogs. You can trade gold, silver. You mentioned gold and silver earlier. You can trade oil. You can trade currencies, interest rates, a number of different things that are very short-term in nature. In other words, if you're looking for short-term income, and that's going to be relative. It may be for some people, a few people, maybe it's daily. For more people, maybe it's weekly or monthly. But it's income means that it's something that you need to get on a shorter-term basis. So that's futures is a great asset to trade for that. It trades almost 24 hours a day. So you've got some great opportunities there, has a really nice tax advantage, all of these things we talk about in these classes. But the futures market is available to any one of us. It's not just something that the big players, the smart money, the big firms can trade. We can do that. It's something they're doing. They may not be teaching you how to do it or telling you how to do it, but they use these markets every day. The foreign exchange market, where you're looking at difference in currencies, interest rates, then that's another asset that trades 24 hours a day, has what we call 50-to-1 leverage. So every dollar controls something worth $50.
So if you have $2,000, you can control up to $100,000 in the market.
$100,000.
That's
right.
buying power.
That's fantastic. That's really maximizing the value of every dollar you have. And that's how all of these big institutions, that's how Wall Street trades. That's how the hedge funds trade. That's how even Warren Buffett uses these leveraged assets, even though he will basically tell the public just to buy stocks and hold on to them forever.
Do as I say, not as I do, right?
Yeah. And and a stock portfolio is a great way to prepare for the future. But what if you could use some of these other assets to boost the returns of your stock portfolio? What if you could use an asset to provide protection for you? So every time we go through a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% drawdown in the market, you're not going down with it. What if you could actually make money when that happens? The market goes more than one direction. Some of these assets can be used in different market conditions. We always use analogies. I think I've used one like golf clubs. If you're a golfer, you don't just play one club for 18 holes. You use different clubs based on the particular situation you find yourself in.
Yeah, something interesting that you were just kind of explaining. You were talking about the futures contracts. Gold, oil, silver, stuff like that. And people that say, well, I don't know. I know what a stock is. I know what Apple is. Well, you can do the same thing. Have you heard of the stock market? Well, most people say yes. Do you know what the S&P 500 is? Yeah, that's the stock market. You can actually trade that in the futures market. It's called the ES. You can trade the NASDAQ, which is the NQ. So there's opportunities out there that you may not even know about that are exactly the same thing that you actually know about. I'm a poet and didn't know it today. That's the second time I did that today, Al. Are you impressed?
Don't quit your job.
There you go, exactly. Well, we have these investing classes that I want to introduce you and invite you to that are happening all across the metro here. We're coming to a neighborhood near you. Also, these classes, just text the word investing to the number 210 right now for 2 seats for an investing class, one for you and one for a friend. Text investing to the number 210. When you come in, you're also going to receive the financial quick start kit, which will help you get started right away. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you miss part of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. So, Al, coming up next, we got more to talk about with some retirement strategies, retirement accounts, different opportunities, especially with what the market could potentially be doing and brewing up coming up soon. This is Josh and Al, Investing and Trading Live. We will be right back.